Hey guys, Angel Arts is back. I decided that I'm going to do a bonus video of episode 1 of Let's Play The Wolf Among Us, where I actually read through the extras that we collected during episode 1. I know that not everybody would appreciate that, of me just reading text on the screen. So if that's not your cup of tea, feel free to skip over this video. But for those of you who are curious as to finding out what the extras are, I'm just going to go ahead and just run through them all here for you. So let's go through the Book of the Fables, because we've been collecting a lot of stuff. Okay. There's a lot of people here. I guess... Oh, we didn't unlock something in episode... We didn't unlock one of the characters in episode 1. I'm wondering if that was Lawrence? Maybe? Maybe that was Lawrence? But anyway, we're gonna read through these. Bigby Wolf, Fabletown Sheriff. And this is good stuff, because I think for those of you who've never read the series, it gives you an opportunity to get to know more information about these characters and about this universe. And maybe it'll help you decide whether these characters are interesting enough for you to go out and acquire the series yourself to read. The renowned Big Bad Wolf. He's known for tormenting pigs and girls in red hoods, but is trying to put those dark days behind him. Bigby now acts as Fabletown's sheriff and remains in his human form, mostly. However, due to his rough past, the citizens of Fabletown are slow to trust him. Bigby is determined to show that he's truly changed, but some instincts are just too hard to control. Snow. Oh, can I not? Oh, I can. Okay. Oh, wait. Back. I didn't want to do that. Snow White, assistant to the deputy mayor. Snow White may seem cold, but this stems from her life of mistreatment and abuse back in the homeland. See, she doesn't seem that cold, though. She didn't seem that cold in the episode. Snow White may seem cold, but this stems from her life of mistreatment and abuse back in the homelands. After escaping assault and imprisonment, not to mention an attempt on her life, she married Prince Charming. It wasn't long before Snow discovered that Charming cheated on her with her estranged sister, Rose Red, and she divorced him. After the Exodus, Snow focused her attention to setting up a safe haven for Fables in the New World. She now serves as assistant to the deputy mayor of Fabletown. The Woodsman. The Woodsman is one of the few men who went toe-to-toe with Bigby in his Black Forest days and lived to tell the tale. In an attempt to save Little Red Riding Hood, save her, he was going to rob her and her grandma. Yes, Reapers. Yes, Reapers. In an attempt to save Little Red Riding Hood, he split the great wolf's belly open with his axe, filled him full of rocks, and threw the beast into the river. To his dismay, his popularity has faded. Even his name is forgotten, and he is only known as the Woodsman. That is true, we don't know the Woodsman's name. Faith, Donkeyskin Girl. Faith, otherwise known as the Donkeyskin Girl, made it through the Exodus from the magical homelands with the clothes on her back, her husband, and nothing else. Now, I think her dad was left behind. She was once a beautiful princess, happily married to Prince Lawrence of a neighboring kingdom. Her life should have had a happy ending, but the mundane city of New York wasn't kind to her or her marriage. With no money, Faith found herself turning tricks to make the rent for a cheap apartment on the outskirts of Fabletown. She had a difficult life, but she did what she could to survive in an unfamiliar world. Beauty. Caring wife. Beauty and her husband, Beast, once lived in an enchanted castle, but they were forced to flee the homelands in the Exodus, leaving all of their wealth behind. Now they live in a modest studio in Fabletown, New York. Though times are hard, with Beast working multiple jobs to pay the bills, the couple have the longest lasting relationship of all Fables, which I think is pretty awesome. Beast. Beast and his wife Beauty left everything behind when they escaped the homelands in the Exodus. With his former wealth, Beast must pick up extra work. Without his former wealth, Beast must pick up extra work to make ends meet. He's able to get around Fabletown without a glamour most of the time, but if Beauty gets too angry with him, he becomes more beastly by the minute, growing horns and large teeth. Despite the occasional bickering, the two are truly in love and have the longest lasting relationship of anyone in Fabletown. So Beast is the concerned husband. Mr. Toad, the slumlord. Mr. Toad is the superintendent for a defunct tenement on the edge of Fabletown proper. Because he's a 3.5-foot talking amphibian, Toad is required by Fabletown law to keep his family and himself magically glamoured to appear human. The problem is Toad isn't too concerned with what the law is and has to be reminded often. Colin, the couch surfer. Colin is better known as one of the 3 little pigs. Back in the homelands, they were harassed by the big bad wolf, who blew down Colin's house of straw. Okay, he was the straw one. I figured he probably was the straw one. Colin's the more humble of the pigs, so I guess it fits that he was the one who built his house out of straw. After the Exodus, Colin and the other Fables who couldn't pass for human were sent to live at the farm in upstate New York, and Colin escapes from the farm quite often. Unable to stand such a boring life, Colin constantly makes trips down to Fabletown to bother Bigby. He is always caught and sent back to the farm, but he doesn't let that stop him. Yeah. Ichabod Crane, the deputy mayor of Fabletown. Hailing from the haunted town of Sleepy Hollow, Ichabod Crane has been deputy mayor of Fabletown for nearly 115 years. Yeah, Fables don't really age, like in appearance-wise. They pretty much stay the same. They pretty much stay the same visual age. Crane is a bundle of nerves and takes his job very seriously, though that doesn't mean he always does it well. As one of Fabletown's elite, Crane is often blind to the troubles of the less fortunate, less well-off citizens. Overall, Crane is authoritarian, cowardly, and is always hiding something. Yeah. Buffkin, Fabletown librarian. Buffkin is the talking winged monkey from the land of Oz. Now as Fabletown's librarian, he spends his time reading and stealing the deputy mayor's booze. He's prone to mischief, so when something goes wrong, he assumes he'll receive the lion's share of the blame. He's helpful when he wants to be, but most of the time he'd rather be drinking. Yeah, he does that a lot in the comics too. Someone would have fired him a long time ago, but he's the only one who can make sense of the filing system. That's also true. That's also very true. Fabletown, home of the Fables. Fabletown is a community located on Bullfinch Street in Manhattan's Upper West Side. To regular people, or Mundies, Muggles, it appears to be an ordinary New York neighborhood, but it is really the home of Fables from many worlds, and within the business office at the Woodlands lies a massive cavern, a vast library, and hundreds of magical items of immense power. All non-human Fables live upstate on the farm, an extension of Fabletown. The Farm, Fabletown Annex. The farm is home to Fables, who cannot pass as human, giants, goblins, animals, etc. It is located in upstate New York, far enough away from the Mundies to avoid detection. Some of its residents resent their confinement to the farm, despite its size and comforts. To them, the farm is a prison. They would be allowed to leave the farm if they could purchase a glamour, but many don't have the money for something so expensive. This is exactly what I was talking about at the beginning of the game. Though some, like Colin, sneak out into the city anyway. Mundies, NonFables. Okay, so those police officers were Mundies, and the police officers found... You know what they found. Short for mundane, Mundy is a catch-all term that Fables uses to refer to the non-magical inhabitants of their adopted home. Warding spells placed around the blocks of Fabletown and the farm keep their minds distracted and dull within certain boundaries. However, if anything should pique the curiosity or scrutiny of a large group of Mundies, these magical protection charms would overload and fail. As Sheriff of Fabletown, one of Bigby's primary functions is ensuring the Fabletown community maintains a low profile. Very important. Just like in Harry Potter. Glamours. Disguise spell. Glamours are spells that allow the user to change their appearance. They are expensive but can be purchased by non-human Fables in order to pass for human among the Mundies. Cheap glamours can be found in the seedier parts of Fabletown, but they are often unreliable and prone to sudden failure. Excuse me. Prince Lawrence, Faith's husband. After escaping the homelands, Prince Lawrence and his wife, Faith, immediately fell victim to the harsh realities of the mundane world. They moved to New York hoping to find aid in a community of fellow Fables, but without enough money to live in Fabletown, they had to settle on an apartment on the outskirts of the neighborhood. Unfortunately, that meant that they were out of sight and out of mind when it came to government assistance. Their prospects dwindling, Faith left Lawrence to try to make it on her own. Now without his wife for support, Lawrence struggles to motivate himself and quickly sinks into depression. That's so sad. The Tweedles hired goons. But who hired them? They never said who their boss was. The Tweedle Brothers, Dum and Dee, are thugs for hire. They appear human, allowing them to carry out their contracts in the Mundy world without drawing suspicion. They are as inseparable as they are ruthless. Where's Alice when you need her? Holly, the Trip Trap owner. Holly is a no-nonsense kind of troll and the owner of the Trip Trap bar. She's glamored to appear human, but her patrons know better. Holly takes good care of her regulars, often the downtrodden Fables with little to spare, which is why she was trying to hide the Woodsman, because he was a regular. I don't think that she was trying to be evil about it. She was just trying to help a friend, a regular. But she has no patience for the Fabletown government that has done nothing to locate her missing sister. Huh, who is her missing sister? Grendel, the Drifter. Grendel just wants to be left alone. In the old days, he terrorized Norse mead halls. But lately, he can be found occupying a stool in various quiet, dumpy bars around New York. He hates the noise of the city, but must work there to afford his glamour. Despite his gruff bearing, he's fiercely loyal to those who've learned to offer him the space and silence he desires. Talking to him is like watching a time bomb tick down. It's only a matter of time, as we've seen. He kind of looks like that ghost, like a buffer version of the ghost from The Nightmare Before Christmas, especially in the face. He looks just like that ghost, only after working out. Bluebeard, the wealthy scoundrel. We didn't really cover much with Bluebeard. Bluebeard managed to escape the homelands without his riches intact, and continues to be one of the wealthiest Fables. He managed to escape this homelands with his riches intact. Why can't I not read? And continues to be one of the wealthiest Fables in New York. The Fabletown government depends on his generous contributions, and he often uses his influence for his own benefit. As a former serial killer, he claims his days of decapitating his brides are over. But even if he was able to leave his violent ways in the homelands, that hasn't stopped him from making the occasional trip down Crooked Lane. Yeah. Bigby's Mercy. In the days leading up to the Exodus, the big bad wolf hunted armies of men and goblins in the Black Forest. These invading forces had driven off the great beast's preferred quarry, and their own flesh was rotten with corruption. Hardly a suitable replacement. He made it his game to destroy their camps, devour their night watchmen, and disrupt their supply trains while sparing their prisoners. One day, he broke their ranks and discovered a particular woman they held captive. This is important. Her skin was white as snow, but her hair was as dark as the night sky. He approached her, and she, knowing no sword could match the giant wolf's power, bravely placed her shackles in the beast's mouth. He freed her, but years would pass before the two met again in the Mundy world. You'll learn more about this story if you end up reading the comics. Okay. So I'm sorry I wasn't able to unlock this one, but maybe somebody else will. So we've got Book of Fables, player choices we already did, and achievements. So, welcome to Fabletown, complete Chapter 1 of Episode 1. Wolf in Sheriff's Clothing, complete Chapter 2 of Episode 1. The Long Goodbye, complete Chapter 3 of Episode 1. The Frog or the Prince, complete Chapter 4 of Episode 1. Yeah, oh, the Frog or the Prince, I get it. Panic in the Parlors, complete Chapter 5 of Episode 1. A Light Snowfall, complete Episode 1, Faith. Novice Librarian, unlock all Books of Fables entries in Episode 1. I probably have to replay it to get this achievement. Return to an Attorney, complete Chapter 1 of Episode 2. Okay, well, this is all Episode 2 stuff. I also did a bit of web searching and noticed that, believe it or not, Donkeyskin, the story of Donkeyskin, is an actual fairy tale in real life. I didn't know this. Granted, it's not one of the more well-known or popular fairy tale stories, but it does exist. It actually originates from France. According to Wikipedia, Donkeyskin, in French, I'm gonna botch this, Poudane, I don't speak French, guys, sorry, is a French literary fairy tale written in verse by Charles Perrault. It was first published in 1695 in a volume and republished in 1697. The synopsis is, a king had a beautiful wife and a rich castle, including a marvelous donkey whose droppings were gold, and that kind of explains that part in the book when you were, reading the book of symbols, the brickle bit, the whole brickle bit about turning donkey or animal poo to gold. So that's where that, I guess, connection into the Donkeyskin story lies. So one day, the king's wife dies after making him a promise not to marry except to a woman whose beauty and attributes equaled hers, which is the same thing that essentially Buffkin said. The king grieved, but was, in time, persuaded to seek another wife. It became clear that the only woman who would fit the promise was his own daughter. This is probably why they didn't end up making this a Disney movie. She went to her fairy godmother, who advised her to make impossible demands as a condition of her consent. For example, a dress the color of the sky, a dress the color of the moon, a dress as bright as the sun, and finally, the hide of his marvelous donkey. Oh, poor donkey. Such was the king's desire to marry her that he granted all of them. Oh, so the father was willing to slaughter and take the skin of his donkey that produces gold just so that he could marry his daughter. The fairy godmother gave her a marvelous chest to contain all she owned and told her that the donkey skin would make an excellent disguise. The princess fled and eventually found a royal farm. A royal farm. Huh. Don't really know what a royal farm would be like. Where they let her work in the kitchen, despite her ugliness, in the donkey skin. On feast days, she would dress herself in the fine gowns her father had given her. And one such day, the prince came by her room, Prince Lawrence, I'm assuming, and peeped through the keyhole. So Prince Lawrence is a peeping Tom. Great. Again, this would have been awesome material for a Disney movie. He fell in love at once, fell ill with his longing, and declared that nothing would cure him but a cake baked by Donkeyskin, and nothing they could say of what a dirty creature she was dissuaded him. When Donkeyskin baked the cake, a ring of hers fell in it. Ah, okay. The prince found the ring and declared that he would marry only the woman whose finger it fit. Sounds very similar to many, like the whole story of Donkeyskin sounds like a hodgepodge of classic fairy tale stories that many of us in modern times are used to. Every woman having failed, he insisted that Donkeyskin try, and it fit. When she had dressed herself in her fine gowns, his parents were reconciled with the match. Donkeyskin later found that her father had remarried to a beautiful widow. Oh, so there was somebody else who apparently was just as beautiful and equaled the queen. They just didn't look hard enough. Had remarried to a beautiful widow, or maybe the widow had just become a widow. I don't know. and everyone lived happily ever after. Okay. So yeah, that was the story of Donkeyskin. Um, so I thought that was really interesting that Fables was able to get a very obscure, I thought obscure fairy tale in real life and utilize that for the story. Before I close, I kind of wanted to briefly give some speculations and theories that I have about the killer and who the killer might be. Um, so if you don't want to hear it for once, if you don't want to hear it because you don't want to be influenced or you want to be surprised in case I'm right, um, stop watching this video. The only thing, really left that I will say in this video is just my farewell, so you're not going to miss anything else if you stop the video now. But for those of you who are curious, while I was playing through the game, on the back of my mind, and I admit that I wasn't really thinking very much about it during the gameplay, but after the fact, when I was going through the videos that I had rendered, that I had made, I noticed something, and what I noticed was there is a character, unnamed so far. There's an unnamed character that you bump into in several places throughout the episode. And some of you, I've noticed, have already pointed this out in the comments, is there's this red-headed guy. Oh, it has to be a red-headed guy. There's this red-headed, freckled guy, I think, and you see him in at least three places. I think there's three places that I caught him. One was when you first see Snow and you guys are walking towards the, towards the jacket outside of the building, the apartment building, and they bump into the redheaded guy. Um, that was number one. Number two is when Bigby is going into the office, Ichabod Crane's office, and there's a bunch of people in line. Grendel was in line. I actually didn't notice that Grendel, that person that was yelling at Bigby, was the same person who we meet later in the Trip Trap bar, Gren. But with Gren, or in line with Gren, was the redheaded guy again. And then I saw the redheaded guy one more time, and if you aren't paying attention, it's really easy to miss him. But when you start chasing Tweedledee through that building, there's a point where Tweedledee drops a couch or like moves a couch in front of you, and lo and behold, the person that he essentially drops the couch almost practically on is the redheaded guy. So he seems to be popping up a lot. And it makes me wonder, who is that redheaded guy and is he the killer? Right now, I think I want to actually be bold in saying he's the killer, not just involved with the murder. I think he is the killer. Why he's killing people, I have no idea. Who is he? Somebody had written a comment, so I can't take this. I can't take credit for this theory because that person kind of put it into my head, and I kind of agree with that person. Zor Z Zelda made a comment that he or she thinks that it's the headless horseman, and so I think maybe the red-headed guy is the headless horseman, even though he has a head, but maybe he got that head from somebody else and magicked it on his, I don't know. It's a little dark, but that's not unusual in the Fables universe. Things can get really, really dark in that comic series. So, yeah, I'm calling it right now. I think the redheaded guy is the killer, and I think somehow he's the headless horseman. That's what I think. And it also goes well with the whole Ichabod Crane thing, too. The fact that his character is in the series as well. So those are my theories. Thanks again, guys, for watching this episode of Let's Play The Wolf Among Us. I can't wait for episode 2, you guys. I will try to play it as immediately as possible as soon as it gets released. And also Walking Dead Season 2. So many awesome games from Telltale are coming up. Thanks again, guys, for watching, and until next time, love yourselves and love each other.